this. And I'm just going to rephrase it. It's basically the ability to manage one's own emotions and at the same time being able to help others do the same. So that's sort of a paraphrase. So first of all, you have to be able to manage your own emotions because you're not going to help anyone else manage theirs if you're out of control, right? So it's kind of like, when you're on an airplane and the pre-flight announcements are made that, put your own oxygen mask on first if the masks drop before you try to help others put theirs on. So it's about really being able to manage your emotions. And in order for us to be able to manage our emotions, I think the step before that is first of all, becoming aware of our emotions. And becoming aware of the different triggers that may spark a knee-jerk response. Are there certain situations that I react to, that I become reactive in? Are there certain people at work or at home that I just sort of react to, and I'm not aware of it, but the moment they walk into the room and the moment they make a comment, I'm immediately just sort of shutting them down or just sort of, reacting to them without even really hearing what they're having to say. Because when we have that sort of response to someone we don't see eye to eye with or get along with, or we've just determined in our mind that this is not a nice human being or a good person, at that point, our ability to hear anything that they say is basically shut down. So I guess the definition really that I'd like to work with is being able to, first of all, become aware of your emotions and feelings, and then be able to manage them. Because if you're not aware, then you don't know what to manage. Like, what are you managing? Okay, I'm managing this group of people and this project, and these are my resources. So you have to know what it is before you begin to manage that,
Thank you, Pandit. That makes a lot of sense. I love the analogy with the oxygen mask. Definitely puts it into perspective in a much better way. I have a question actually about what you said. This thing about being self-aware. I find myself sometimes, when I'm having a conversation, that my responses might be reactive. How can we develop that self-awareness when we are trying to, answer a specific question or talk with emotional intelligence? How can we develop that?
So like with anything in life, it's not something that, you don't do and then in the moment that you're going to be able to do it. It's like trying to run a marathon without getting prepared for the marathon. To get prepared to run a marathon, you have to be practicing for years to get up to that 26 miles. The same thing here, it requires sort of training your mind and training your brain to not be reactive. And that means doing some kind of mindfulness practice on a regular basis where you are becoming aware of your thoughts. Like, for example, if you do it in the morning, it doesn't have to be the morning, but just taking one of the exercises, taking a moment to realize, like, okay, am I angry right now? Keeping your eyes closed. Am I angry? Am I upset? Am I happy? Am I just stressed out? Am I anxious about something that might happen? A conversation that I'm going to have, and I'm kind of anxious about that. Identifying those emotions and also identifying certain people that we are reactive to. So once you've identified that, and now you know that, okay, these two people I just don't get along with, we don't see eye to eye, we don't get along at work, and I know that tomorrow morning there's going to be a group meeting, team meeting, and they're going to be in there. Now that I have already set that up, like, you've placed out the chessboard and all the pieces are there and you can see what's going on. Now you already know that that's coming. And what do? Now you can prepare to engage with them. Now, one thing is you can visualize yourself, in that meeting and not reacting. Visualize them saying something that'll make you react and then you not reacting. Just visualize that, right? So that's kind of a cool thing to do. Like, okay, they're saying something, or maybe I'm going to make a point and I know they're going to disagree with it just because they like to disagree with me. Whatever, maybe the relationship's gotten that bad. And visualize yourself not getting upset when they disagree with you. Right? So that's how you want to be. So visualize how you want to be in that moment and how you want your response to be different. That's one thing. Another thing is, and this is maybe hard, but I always like to encourage that we try to think some positive things about those individuals before we get into that interaction. and this is hard because we don't like them and they don't like us, think about the positive contributions they've made at work thus far. And really try hard to think about them. Write them down. Yeah, okay, because of, they put in extra hours last week. It didn't help me, but it helped their team. And so obviously they're dedicated to their work. Think of some positive things that they do. Think of some of their positive qualities as well. Try to put them in a more positive space in your head, as opposed to the negative space that they're occupying right now. Let's move them from the negative to the positive. At least let's try. So now we visualize how we want to respond if they say something, and we visualize them in a positive sense. So when we go in there, we can see and be more positive towards them. Those are my 2 thoughts on that.
I think they're wonderful. I love the idea of visualizing your reaction before you even react.
Yeah.
Such an important and powerful thing. The mind. At the end of the day, you are what you think. So it does make a lot of sense. We do have a couple questions in the Q&A chat box that I want to bring up real quick.
Please.
First one is from an anonymous attendee. They say, I feel sleepy for a longer period of time in the mornings. What should I do to get up early?
Okay, so it's hard to get out of bed. It's, you're very sleepy in the morning. One thing is, really, it's like how you get up and when you get up and how quickly you get up and how many times you hit the snooze button. All depends on what time you go to sleep. So we can't look at the time we're waking up by itself. We have to look at the time we're going to sleep. If you're sleeping at midnight and you have to wake up at 6, you're already setting yourself up for failure. So if you want to wake up at 6 a.m., for example, and you know that your body needs 7 by, people, we think we have an idea of how much we need to be strong and healthy. I think we have a pretty good idea, most of us. So make sure you calculate backwards. If you know you need 7 hours, or if you know you need 8 hours and you have to be up at 6, you got to get to bed by 10. It's as simple as that, just working backwards. Like if you want to go for a job interview, it's going to take you 45 minutes to get there and you have to be there at 9. You got to leave by 8 or 8:15. You want to get out the house by 8 because sometimes you forget your keys or forget your this or that and you have to run back in. So get out of the house at 8 so you can be there by 8:45 and you park your car, you get to the lot, you calculate all that. So if you need 8 hours, maybe by 9:45, you want to, or maybe even by 9, turn off your phone. So you're not just constantly working, because your brain is still fully functioning at 1,000,000 miles an hour. How is that brain going to stop working when you lie down? It's not. It's going to take a while. Shut that down. Maybe start reading a book that you like. Maybe listen to some calming music. So prepare yourself so by 10:30, you can be in bed in a relaxed, do a nice sleep app with meditation.live. I highly recommend that. Do these things to calm your motor down. Just like, a car engine, when you turn the car off, the engine is still hot. You touch the hood and it's hot still because it hasn't cooled down. So if we don't cool this engine down before going to sleep, we'll be laying in bed for an hour thinking about all the things we have to do because we haven't calmed the engine down. And then it's just going to take us a long time to fall asleep. And then when we wake up, we just can't get out of bed because the body hasn't rested sufficiently. So how we wake up and when we wake up is determined by when and how we go to sleep. We have to plan that too.
That makes a lot of sense. I love that practical advice. I should follow it myself too. So it's very good. The other question we have is from Samuel. And he asks, what exercises could I use to control those set emotions? Examples could be reactive anger responses.
So what exercises can be done to manage those? One basic exercise is really just taking a few deep breaths. And when I talk about, and we'll do this towards the end, when I talk about taking deep breaths, I mean, really breathe in such a way that you fill your lungs completely. And, we don't really do that much. Like if we think about it, our breathing is really shallow. Like if you think about your breathing right now, just think about how you're breathing and now do one of these. Look how much deeper that was than before. It was you probably took in like 20, 30 times more oxygen, correct? As opposed to just kind of like this much and then you're going. We don't do that. We're just like kind of happening on its own. So one is actually just the deep breathing, and research has shown this, that if you just do this kind of deep breathing, you take 10 deep breaths and just focus on the breath. Like, don't check your text messages while you're doing the breathing. Just put it aside, just breathe. That in itself will calm down your emotions and help reduce some of the anger. And if it is like, it depends on what it is. If you have a moment, if you're going to go into a meeting or if you're upset, just go walk around the block a little. But you know what? Leave your phone behind. I always recommend this, and people always find it kind of interesting that after I give a speech in a corporation, I'm like, you know what? I want you guys to try to do today or tomorrow. Take a lunch break, go for a 15-minute walk, and leave your phone behind. Give your mind, give your emotions a chance to disconnect and just sort of relax your mind and your eyes and everything, so that you can actually, calm your emotions down. I see a couple of questions here. Should I go ahead and read it? And read one here is from from Amit, saying, how do I concentrate on my work amongst all distractions, which are coming from other tracks of my work and are unavoidable? Well, if they're unavoidable, then maybe you can't avoid them. But I think sometimes, now, I don't know, I'm going to answer this and hopefully it'll satisfy Amit with the answer, is that sometimes we feel that when we do multitasking, that's actually going to be how we're going to resolve our problems and deal with the many different things that are coming with us. Actually, scientific research has shown that multitaskers have reduced efficiency by 40%, and they're 50% more prone to making errors. Simply because our mind can't do two things at once. Not possible. Is there a reason why it's illegal to text and drive? Did you think about that? Like, you can't, because the mind can't be doing this and this at the same time. You do this, you crash. The mind actually can only focus on one thing. So what I would suggest, that you try to finish one task to completion as much as possible, and then go to the next one. Because if you try to do three, what'll happen is, it's when you're stopping your thought process on one task and you jump to another one, and you fully get absorbed in this one. And now when you have to go back to this one an hour later, you don't remember fully where you left off. Sometimes it could take 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to fully remember everything that you had in your mind when you were working on this. You might lose your train of thought. You might forget a couple of items that you had in your mind that were really good. So now you might forget those. So it's kind of like when you're driving down a long highway. I have all these kind of metaphors that I like to use. And you pull off into a rest area for 5 minutes and then get back on. You've lost 5 minutes, right? And if you do 5 of those stops, basically it's 50 minutes slower than you would have gotten there. So my point is that you get to point A to B faster if you stay focused on one task. And again, I don't know if this is answering and satisfying Amit's question, but I think I try to focus on one thing, because he said it's unavoidable. Get it done. And if you can't finish that one thing, if something super urgent comes up, make a note of where you left off and then go to the next project. So then when you go back, you can read your notes and dive right back in a little faster.
Thank you, Pandit. That makes a lot of sense. I love that about multitasking. I think that's something that everybody does. And with society today and all the stimuli we have going on, I think it's unavoidable sometimes to multitask. And I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to focus on one thing and do that. There's another great question by Barbara. I actually have the same question. Does food play a role? And are there any superfoods to take that will enhance brain functionality?
God, I could talk about this for an hour. Barbara, you really hit a note for me, a nerve for me. I love talking about this. I mean, think about it this way. I'm going to give another metaphor. Yeah. Your car asks for regular, gasoline, and you start putting diesel in there. It's not going to function as well. It'll keep moving, but at some point it's going to slow down and become dysfunctional. Food is our fuel. Right? It's the fuel for our body and mind. And what kind of food we put in is going to determine how our machine functions. Our machine includes the physical body and the clarity of our mind and intelligence. All of it is determined by food. So if we're eating heavy foods, that's not going to be very healthy for us, obviously, in the long run. And also it's going to slow us down at work. Like you eat a heavy lunch, what happens? You just want to sleep after that. You can't, like your brain actually feels like a clog up there. Like the drain's just clogged. So yes, heavy meats, like like heavy foods, like, I mean, one item is that like red meats are obviously not a very healthy thing to be eating. It's not good for your health. It can also, slow your body down. It's just really bad for your health ultimately. More fruits and vegetables are great. The more fruits and vegetables you can input into your life, into your diet on a daily basis, and the reduction of like processed and red meats, if you can reduce that, that will help your body and your mind, because what's good for the body is also good for the mind, and vice versa. It's one unit, right? So what happens to one affects the other. So yeah, I think, and especially like, I know we fuel our bodies with caffeine, but caffeine actually has shown, there was an article from Duke Medicine that caffeine actually increases stress because it's speeding up your body. So I really like, meditation as the natural caffeine for the body. It can energize and it can relax your mind and help you increase your focus and productivity. And it's really good for your health. So again, few things, if you can reduce your coffee, reduce the process of red meats, increase your intake of fruits and vegetables, and use those things as your midday snack, as opposed to like some sugary candy bar that's going to, again, slow you down after it gives you a little high.
Great tips, Pandit. And all these tips obviously fall within the topic we're talking about today, which is emotional intelligence. And I encourage all attendees here today to ask any questions regarding this topic. I think it's a wonderful topic to learn about. One of the questions that I also have about this specifically is how can emotional intelligence help us build better relationships with people, whether it be in the workplace or in daily life? What kind of role does it play within that?
It plays the most important role you can imagine. Emotional intelligence is being able to manage your emotions and help others manage them, but it's also about help understanding another person's perspective. There is no such thing as a relationship if you can't understand another person's perspective. If you can't understand where another person's coming from, and you only have your perspective and you have your own ideas, and we're not able to hear someone else, what they're saying, in a workplace environment, that's going to lead to a complete breakdown in communication and collaboration. And at home or in your personal life, if we're not able to see what concerns our family members, our spouse, our friend, and we just keep our habits going and we're not trying to accommodate and adjust, we're not hearing what others are saying, we're not willing to make those changes, then naturally that relationship is going to be severely damaged. So I think emotional intelligence is like one of the key prominent factors in having a long, healthy relationship. Because again, if two people are talking at each other and not stopping to hear what the other is saying, and not just hear, we want to be able to learn to listen without wanting to respond. We want to listen to understand and not listen to respond. And that's the biggest reason why relationships break down, is because we stop listening to one another. We stop understanding one another in personal and professional situations. So emotional intelligence helps us to pause. My friend, my colleague, my spouse is talking, my kid is talking. I'm going to hear what they're saying and really try to understand what they're saying and repeat back to them what they just said, so they understand that I get it. I'm not going to come up with a response. My goal is to repeat back to them what they just said, so they understand that I understood what they wanted to communicate.
I love that. I love listen to understand. That's so important. And I want to share a message actually on the chat box from Mel. She says, I work with a life coach and she gave me a great tip. Before I go into work, I ask myself, what am I bringing today? And I accept the honest truth. If need be, I share that with my team. For instance, if I'm tired or cranky today, so they know. It's such an important thing, kind of plays what we were talking about communicating and letting people know this is how I feel, so they know and they're not sort of taken back. So I think that kind of fit nicely with what we were talking about.
Yeah, being honest and vulnerable with your team members, your family, that's a great thing. It's not a sign of weakness. Depends on how it's done,
Exactly, 100%. And then we do have a couple more questions I wanted to share with you, Pandit. The first one is, how do I give undivided attention to my present moment with all these smart devices? I imagine the iPhone and iWatch that sort of keep my attention from the present. How can they tackle that, for instance?
I think it's just that I think we've reached to a point where we are officially addicted to our phones, and the only way to break that addiction is to learn to start putting it away. And maybe we could do something like I mentioned earlier, like during lunch, just take a 10-15 minute walk without your phone. So you're now practicing being without it, unless of course you've got a family member in the hospital or something that, I think you understand what I'm saying. Like, leave it and go for a walk. At your workplace, make it a rule or something that, in the meetings, don't bring your phone in. We don't want people texting when they're in their meeting. Leave, unless you need your phone for the meeting for some reason, but you could do that. So when we start, or you could say, you know what, at lunch for 15 minutes, I'm not going to look at it. I'll go for a walk. When I have dinner with my family, I'm going to put it away. So you have set times where you don't look at it. So to respect the person in front of you, then your body starts to develop a habit that, oh, maybe this is one of those times I should put it away. Oh, maybe this is one of those times I put it away. And you know what? We have our phone. It's not enough just to sort of turn it upside down on your desk while you're talking to someone, because, it still dings and you're still there. Put it inside your desk and close the drawer. That really shows the other person you respect them. Like, hey, you know what? You're important, not this. I can check this the other 23 hours that I'm not with you. So I think that's how we practice putting it away. There's another question here. Does anxiety affect my emotional intelligence? This is from anonymous attendee. Naturally, the more anxious we are in our mind, right, the less we're going to be able to think about other people. And I think this is where mindfulness and meditation can really come in handy, is that one of the purposes of mindfulness and meditation is to help calm down our anxiety. They can really help put things in perspective. Sometimes our mind just blows things out of perspective. It makes a mountain out of a molehill. Something could be this, an issue could be this big, but our mind's like, oh my God, you're going to lose your job and become homeless if you don't finish this, don't send this email right now. It's like the mind does that. So mindfulness and the raising of self-awareness can help us realize that things aren't going to be as bad as they are, as that we imagine they are. And if we take a few deep breaths and calm our emotions down, then we'll be less anxious, and then we'll be able to be more emotionally involved and focused with those in front of us.
Thank you, Pandit. I think that's wonderful advice. And on that note, actually, I think it would be a great time to actually jump into a practice, perhaps to improve our emotional intelligence. Yeah. What do you think?
Sure. I think I always love to do that. So maybe like 2 or 3 minutes?
Sounds perfect. And then I encourage, everybody to share their experience after. It will be wonderful.
Okay. So let's go ahead and start. Please, everyone, close your eyes, sit comfortably. And if you can, please put your feet flat on the floor. Unless you're sitting cross-legged, then that's fine. And let's just start by becoming aware of the weight of our body pushing down into the seat that we're sitting on. Just feel the weight of your body, the heaviness of your body pushing down into the seat. And this is helping us to come into the present moment. We're focusing all of our attention and awareness onto one point. And become aware of your hands and fingers and how they're situated. Now let's go ahead and take 3 deep breaths. And again, breathe in such a way that you fill your lungs completely with each inhalation. And you exhale completely and thoroughly with each exhalation. Take another couple of deep breaths like this. And each time you breathe in, you should be able to take in a little bit more breath because your lungs have now been able to expand a little bit. Now bring your awareness into the region of your mind and just take a moment to identify whatever emotions you're experiencing. Maybe you're anxious, maybe you're happy, maybe you're sad, maybe you're stressed about something, maybe you're upset about something. Just take a moment to identify whatever emotions that you might be going through right now. And this is step 1, becoming aware of what's happening in our mind. Now take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, breathe out all of the emotions you recognized, all the thoughts that were in your mind. Just let everything go. Completely empty out your mind, relaxing your body and mind. Take another deep breath in. Really fill your lungs completely. And this time as you exhale, relax all the muscles in your face, your mouth, your jaw, dropping your shoulders. Now take a moment to appreciate one of your colleagues or someone in your personal life that supported you and encouraged you, and wish them well in their endeavors. Now take a moment to appreciate the contributions and good qualities of someone you don't see eye to eye with, and maybe you've even had some conflict with them. And try to appreciate them and wish them well in their endeavors. And this is a very essential practice for us to be able to do on a regular basis. We want to be able to shift our mindset towards individuals we don't see eye to eye with. It's very, very important. Go ahead, take another 3 deep breaths, filling your lungs completely. See if you can breathe in and out just through your nasal passages. Try to do that if you can. You can bring your awareness to your eyes, and you can slowly and gradually begin to open your eyes.
Thank you, Pandit. That was wonderful. It's always interesting to picture that person that you don't see eye to eye with. But I think it's like you said, everything is discipline and practice at the end of the day. So it's good advice. We do have a question here in the Q&A chat box. It says, how can I understand the person who doesn't have emotional intelligence?
Understand meaning like understand what they're saying, or just understand whether they have emotional intelligence or not? I'm not sure which one, but I think that obviously if someone's not able to hear another person's perspective, then that person's lacking in emotional intelligence. But what I always like to do is in these types of situations, I always say that, let's just focus on developing and increasing our own emotional intelligence. I think that the more we're just focused on improving ourselves, then maybe we can help that person as well, because when they see us being emotionally thoughtful and present and kind to them, even though they haven't been so kind, that might trigger something in them to realize that, maybe I need to change something, that this person has changed. So I would say that if I'm hoping that I'm answering the question correctly, that, if we continue to improve on our own emotional intelligence and our habits, then perhaps we can inspire others to move in that similar direction.
Thank you, Pandit. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's good to improve on yourself first, and then sort of be able to tackle that situation with that understanding. We are out of time, so I want to thank you and everybody who attended and asked these wonderful questions for being here. Would be wonderful if you could close us out with some words of wisdom or practice, however you decide.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think the biggest thing that I mentioned is that I think it's just important that this is a daily sort of endeavor. Just like we eat every day, we sleep every day, we drink water every day, we breathe every day. A regular meditation practice should just be a part of our day. It's like, you don't go a whole day without eating. So how do you go a whole day without meditating? If you're feeding your body, you got to feed the mind. If you're exercising the body, you got to exercise the mind. And this deep breathing and meditation exercises are a powerful way. And I think, just like I said, eating and sleeping and drinking water and going to work, going to sleep, meditation just needs to be inserted into that it just becomes a part of our schedule. Even if it's 1 minute a day, even if it's 2 or 3 minutes a day, I think we can all find 2 or 3 minutes a day to incorporate and insert it in there, so it just becomes a part of our daily routine. And then we'll notice the difference very, very quickly, actually.
Thank you, Pandit, and thank you, everybody. That's great advice.
My pleasure. so glad we could have this amazing conversation. Thank you, everybody, for joining and participating and asking your amazing questions.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Namaste.